It's interesting because Arcart was my 20th customer of my consultancy. And I started my consultancy back in 2017 after leaving the corporate world after 20 to 25 plus years in corporate America. And it was really interesting as I was out networking, Tiffany, and talking to people. And I thought, you know what, there's something here. And there's passion points that I love to do. And it's time for me to, I've got the runway. It's time for me to go focus on those passion points of growth acceleration and strategy.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the show. I'm so excited you're here. My name's Tiffany, and I am the host, Unveiling Journeys. Welcome. I'm going to tell you just a smidge about me. I love the power of networking, the power of masterminds, the power of being in a room where I'm not the smartest person in there, so I can be a sponge and absorb and get to know so many cool ideas and people. And in that, what ends up happening is when I meet these people, I say, "You're so cool. Who do you know that I need to know? I want to know more people just like you." Or I just thought of somebody I absolutely need you to know. Can I introduce them to you? And that leads to some of the most incredible people I've ever met. And those people are the ones that I'm like, please come onto my show. I want to tell more people about you. I need to be your megaphone. That's how I met Clayton. No joke. We're in a networking room and I took a screenshot of him with my phone. I was like, I need to be on this guy's calendar. And then all of a sudden we went to another meeting and he and I got together and here we are. We're on the show today. So welcome, Clayton, for coming. Thank you so much.
Hello.
Tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you're up to right now.
Clayton Baum. I am currently the chief revenue officer for a company called Arcart. We're an Israeli technology platform. We really are focused on driving consumer concentric purchase data for brands so that they can optimize their strategies and their marketing spends and make better, smarter decisions. And we do that all through capturing quality purchase data. It's interesting because Arcart was my 20th customer of my consultancy. And I started my consultancy back in 2017 after leaving the corporate world after 20 to 25 plus years in corporate America. And it was really interesting as I was out networking, Tiffany, and talking to people. And I thought, you know what, there's something here. And there's passion points that I love to do. And it's time for me to, I've got the runway. It's time for me to go focus on those passion points of growth acceleration and strategy. And that's how it led me to Arcart through somebody who I was networking with, introduced me to the previous CEO and founder. And that's what I do. I run complete revenue operations from the get-go of what do we do in marketing? How are we presenting ourselves? What is our go-to-market? How are we going to present that out to individuals and who are we going to present that out to? And then how are we going to convert those people into opportunities to be customers and then build long-term relationships with those organizations?
Love this stuff so much because let me just tell you, when you were trying to explain to me what they're doing, you had to break it down into like layman's terms. Like, Tiff, have you ever been to a store and you needed to take a picture of a receipt? Think of what has to happen behind all of that. And I thought, this is perfect. You were able to make me understand coming into your world, and I had no idea what any of that meant, but it's so important. These are like the cool things that we get to be involved in and that people are inventing behind the scenes that need to help us run our lives all the better, right?
It's almost Tiffany, like, so you break it down into simpler terms. I can sit and talk about technology stack and I can talk about purchase capture and purchase validation and different platforms that are built off it. But at the end of the day, I often say to somebody, have you ever snapped a photo of a receipt to upload it to get something? And they're like, yeah, all right, that's us behind the scenes. But for me, it's like talking to our developers and our engineers where my eyes start to roll back and they're talking about LLM models and O3, AWS cloud. And yes, I get it. I get it, guys. I get it. Very important to know at a high level, but let's stay on the business use case. And what do we need to do? And how do we make it simple?
I love that so much. All right, let's do this though. I know what you're doing, your mission, your all the cool stuff you're working on right now. Let's start from the beginning. Like, tell me, where are you from, and like, what did you want to be when you grew up? Like, what
Yeah,
does that look like?
it's funny. Most people go, there's no way that that is your background. But I grew up in southern Arizona, and I grew up amongst on an 11-acre ranch. And I like to say that I knew to ride a horse before I knew how to ride a bike. And we did all kinds of things. We were out in the middle of the desert. We had one near neighbor, but most of the neighbors were, a mile plus away. And how'd you get over to that person's house? You saddled up your horse and you rode over there. And I grew up on the outskirts of Tucson, Arizona, and my family was in the tire business. We actually, at one point in time, were the largest BF Goodrich dealership west of the Mississippi. But the funny thing is that I was growing up, I was the kid on the horse, and one friend was on a motorcycle, another was on a bike, but we all still did the same thing as kids. We all went to the local Circle K to go get a pop and a candy bar. But outside that Circle K was a horse tie up, a place where people parked dirt bikes and people parked bikes. And,
That's awesome.
but that's where I grew up. And that actually, in that scenario, I think leads a lot. People go, tell me, why do you think that history led to, what you do today? And I think just growing up, riding horses, taking care of horses, doing other things, cutting down trees, chopping wood, doing all these things leads to tenacity and persistence and, other things that, you can kind of reflect back on, and that kind of started to make you who you are.
Yeah, I noticed that in a lot of the conversations that I'm having with people. It's like, gosh, you had to get through some of those tough years and show your stick to itness of it all. Now, all right, you had a lot of fun as a kid, a lot of hard work. What did you think that you were gonna like grow up to be, or what'd you go to school for?
Yeah, it's funny because you and I talk about networking, right? And as you grow up in a fairly small community like Tucson was, Tucson at the time was, probably less than 150, 200,000 people, in the entire community of Tucson, Arizona. But you get to know people, and, like many teenagers, you sort of lose your way in high school and you necessarily don't have your act together. And I probably was in that bucket of people that enjoyed my junior, senior year of high school while also, busting tires and doing lube and oils at a tire dealership. At the same time, um, I didn't necessarily, I never took an ACT test. I never took an SAT test. I was not one of the kids that applied to a bunch of colleges. And after high school graduation, I had one of my parents say to me, my parents were divorced, but one of my parents said to me, "What are you going to do now?" And I said, I don't know. I'm going to go to the University of Arizona like everybody else. And, which is right in Tucson. And they're like, "But you didn't apply." And I said, "That's okay. I'll just call the dean of students, who was Mr. Ward, who was one of our family friends. And well, if that's what you're going to do." So I called up, I networked with one of our old family friends who happened to be the dean of students and applications. And I said, "Hey, Mr. Ward, it's Clayton Baum. I'd like to go to the U of A." And he said, "Well, did you apply?" "No." He's like, "Okay, come on down, bring a pen, and we'll fill out an application." And I drove down to the University of Arizona. I walked into the admin building. I filled out an application. And he said, "So when do you want to start?" And I was like, "I don't know. When can I start?" He goes, "You want to go to summer school this summer?" And I was like, "Well, I got to do some other work for my dad, but yeah, I'll go to summer school." And he goes, "Okay." And that's how I got to the University of Arizona, was actually through networking and making a phone call and getting it done. And as I went into the U of A, initially I thought I wanted to go into law school, and I did. I started on a path, and I was doing really interesting things. And I started working with the law school. And what I just realized was that I don't like these people. There's a lot of arrogance and just, I don't know if this is what I want to do. And at the time, I had joined Sigma Phi Epsilon fraternity, and it probably was a life changer for me and a change for me to go in and take a different direction and meet a bunch of really good, solid individuals that many, when I say many, hundreds are still friends of mine to this day. And I'm still on group texts of 25 and 30 individuals. And it started a process of working with people. And then I worked my way into, through the fraternity. I was in a leadership position. And lo and behold, the national headquarters called me up and said, "Do you want to come work for us?" And my first job out of college was working for my fraternity. And when I did that, I traveled a region in the northeast part of the country. I traveled in Pennsylvania, Maryland, New Jersey, Washington, D.C., and some of Ohio. And I met probably some of my closest friends to this day, all very senior level individuals, CEOs, chairmen of organizations, senior level sales guys. All of us worked together, and we at that time we were able to. We went through basically a summer training, and in that summer training, we CEO of IBM came in and spoke to us. The CEO of GM came in and spoke to us. The CEO of Ford came in and spoke to us because these guys were all ex-SIGA. And it was all around networking because it's not just about being an undergraduate in a chapter at some university. It's really about the alumni. And the alumni are basically the backbone of any Greek organization. And you have to network with these people and you have to get to know them and you start talking to them and learning from them and you build conversations with them. And that is kind of my history of how I got into college, which is funny because you never can't get into the University of Arizona by driving down and parking in a parking lot and having a pen and filling out an application. And then really building, and finding what you wanted to do by searching, meeting, being introduced to people, and then getting to know people really well.
That's incredible. So what did you end up graduating with?
Political science degree.
You're not even using that. I find so often how many people are not using their degree whatsoever. Like, I'm actually really grateful I never finished my degree of aerospace engineering, but all my college friends graduated, so they're pilots and engineers. And I'm like, I think didn't pass the too bubbly test to be an engineer graduate.
It's funny. So my degree was political science and humanities, and to this day, I can, thanks to two really wonderful humanities professors at the University of Arizona, I can walk into a museum and go, "Hey, that's that kind of, or that's that, and that's that artist, or that," because we lugged around these big, huge, thick books of just history of art and what happens in the human culture, and it's really really fantastic to this day.
That's cool. I do find the human mind and the psychology is ultra fascinating, which is probably why I like this show. I like to like tell me who you are and what makes you tick and why do you care? And so that's funny. I think I did enjoy my humanities class that I had to take as like a default, right? Type of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
No, that's fun. All right. So
yeah.
tell me what's next. Like, what did you do? You have some incredible connections right out of college. What did you do after that?
Right out of college. And once again, and the fraternity brought people in and said, so senior level commercial real estate people, people from Procter and Gamble, the insurance industry, they all came in and, they said, "Hey, look, we want to hire. We're also SIGEPs, but we want to bring you on in our organizations." And they basically did interviews. And funny enough for me, there was one of the ex past staff members who said, "Guys, I really need somebody on my team to do sales." And it was after manufacturer car alarms for GM, Ford, and Chrysler. And I went and worked for this gentleman. So I moved from Richmond, Virginia to Washington, D.C. I was living in Washington, D.C., and all of my friends from the University of Arizona who were living in D.C. were all in government, doing things, working for lobbying organizations, working for congressmen, doing all of these other sundry things. But ultimately, I worked in this role and I got to meet people from GM, Ford, and Chrysler, and I would go out on the road and I would do these things and I would help the back end of the business install alarms. And that was a little bit of my background and upbringing as well, because in my family's business, you had to know how to change a tire, right? You needed to know what kind of tires were where. You needed to know how to talk to somebody at the mines that was buying tires from you. So you needed to speak from the person that was changing the tire to the person that bought the tire. And I was able to do that, but I found it really wasn't right for me. It wasn't the learning that I wanted. And so I was seeking something more. And so I happened to go down to Atlanta, Georgia for a weekend to go visit one of the guys I was on staff with. And he said, "When you come on down, just, bring a suit with you just in case we go out." right? And so I did. I brought something down, and he said, look, I know that you're looking for something else. I want to introduce you to my recruiter. I didn't want to tell you that before you got down here, but he's open to meeting with you. So we went out and had a lot of good fun. And then on a Monday, I was getting ready to head back up to go back and do my thing. And I went and I did an interview with this recruiter, and I spent a few hours with him. And he said, "Hey, would you be willing to go across the hall in an interview with Ian J. Gallo, local Tide and Modesto,
Yep.
Tiffany?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" Walked across the hallway, spent 3 hours interviewing with a variety of people. Walked out of the interview with them saying, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm heading back to DC to go back to work." And they said, "Would you be willing to stop in Greenville, South Carolina?" And I was like, "Okay, why?" And they said, "Look, if you come to work for us, you don't work for us right away. You go work for one of our distributors." And I said, "Okay." So got in the car, still in my suit, drove an hour and a half ish to Greenville, South Carolina, met the people from Piedmont Capital Wine, and it was mid to late October that this happened. And they said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "What do you mean?" They said, "What are you doing?" And I said, what are you asking?" They said, "When can you be down here to work for us?"
Nice.
And I said, "Well, let's talk about what the job is, because I've got a current role, but as I told you, I'm not very happy with it. And I need to give this guy at least some time." And they said, "Do you think you could be back here the end of this week working for us?" And I said, "Let me make a phone call." So I left Piedmont Capital Wine. I got on the phone. I talked to the gentleman who I was working for, and he said, "Man, I'm really glad you called, because I've already left the organization. I just haven't had a chance to tell you yet. So if you want to go work for them, you don't have to give any time. Give 2 weeks. That gives you, because you're going to get a buffer anyways with them. They won't really care. Anyways, they're kind of a, disjointed organization." And I drove to Washington, D.C. I packed my stuff up, and I was working for Piedmont Capital Wine in 3 days,
Wow, that's
right in the
incredible.
heart of holiday season. And
Wow.
again, holiday season, selling wine and everything else that Piedmont Capital Wine sold was really interesting, because you jumped right into building 200 case Carlo Rossi 4-liter displays. And that's how I got into consumer packaged goods, which I have been in since that day in the late 80s. Was when I started in the business in 19, basically 88. And I have been in and around consumer packaged goods for 38 plus years. And so I spent 3 of it with E&J Gallo, a wonderful and fantastic organization. I still recommend it today. They still have a wonderful training program that remains in the industry of consumer packaged goods. I then went and worked for a luxury French producer, champagnes, Italian wine, high-end cognac, scotch, cordials, which is really where I fell in love with the industry itself and really learned wine. And I'm still a bit of a wine dork today. And after that, I got married, and about a year into our marriage, my wife turns to me, and she was in sales at Quaker Oats and then in pharmaceutical sales. And my wife turned to me, she goes, "I just don't like what I'm doing." And she goes, "I watch what you do, and I see your love of sales and how you do it, and just how it sparks you on a daily basis. I don't love it." I said, "Go figure out what you want to do." And she said, "Okay, I want to go back to school." And I said, "Okay, great. What do you want to go do?" She goes, "I want to go get a physical therapy degree." And I said, "Okay, what does that mean?" And she goes, "It's a 2-year graduate program." But what she didn't say to me was she had to go back and do another 4-year undergrad, because she was a business degree. And so she had to go back and do the varying prerequisites to apply to graduate schools. In between, while she was doing all of this at San Diego State, at Arizona State, which didn't please me that she was bringing home Arizona State logo things as a University of Arizona grad, but these various things that she did. And then she applied for school, and we moved to Northern California, to the Bay Area, because she was going to school at UCSF. And at that time, I changed my career out of alcohol beverage, which I loved and still love to this day. And I went to work for another really fantastic organization, which was Colgate-Palmolive.
Oh, how about
And
that?
I worked for two divisions of Colgate-Palmolive. I did that for 7 years. We were moving about every 2 years. That's just what you do in the CPG world. And we were getting ready to make a move. I was going to go work in the Park Avenue office, which was kind of where I wanted to go and how you kind of continue to escalate yourself within the consumer packaged goods company. And then ultimately, I had moved from one division to the next. And the HR team said, you know what? He hasn't checked the mass box. So he has to go work in Bentonville, Walmart, or Minneapolis, Target, for 12 to 18 months. And so I chose Minneapolis. I was working in Minneapolis Monday through Thursday. And I sort of was getting the inkling that my wife did not want to move to Minneapolis. And that's when I then moved from being in brand and sales and marketing on the manufacturer side of CPG into digital promotion, data analytics, and promotional marketing side. And I went and worked for a company for 15 years on that side of the business. And I moved up through the organization. And that was the last corporate job that I had. And as I was leaving that organization, that's what then led me to say, you know what, I'm just going to go start my own consultancy. And it wasn't hanging a shingle until, you get your next job. No, I literally started a company. It's an S Corp. It's called the Sales Advocate Group.
Yeah.
And it's focused on growth acceleration and strategy. And that's what led me all the way from how I walked out of college, what my first job was, where it led me, and why it led me where things happen in life and they just lead you in different paths.
My gosh, there have been probably hundreds of influential people at this point that have nudged you and guided you left and right. What was it like when you left corporate world and you started your own little S corp?
It was funny. So a lot of people said you're nuts in the head. All right. I had some very good friends that all worked at Salesforce. They said, just come over and be an individual contributor at Salesforce. You'll do well, good company, you'll get paid really well. And I was just like, I don't know if that's my passion. And I had a few people say to me, because I was I was traveling the United States chatting with really very senior level people at very large organizations. And the president of a very large media company said to me, he said, I really love who you are. I love what you bring. I don't have a job for you. And we're in the midst of a merger, and I don't know when I would have a job for you. He goes, but feels like you should go out and focus on the few things that you want to go do. People like me would buy your services. And I was like, I think I can make hay with this. And I went and I chatted with a lot of people that were doing consultancy. And a lot of them said, okay, it's not an easy thing. You got to work it. You got to work it really, really hard. Are you open to doing this at this point in your life? Kid who grew up on an 11-acre ranch and had tenacity and persistence said, let's go out and do this. And as I just gave this advice on a referral call the other day, Tiffany. I said, look, he's a gentleman who was on the call. He was a little bit wonky, a little bit wishy-washy, wasn't sure about his pricing, wasn't sure what his value proposition was. And I said, look, if you're going to be successful as a consultant, you need to have the mindset of a raven. You need to be eating the meal you just caught and you need to be looking for the next two. And if you're not willing to go out and look for those next two meals, the only meal you're going to get is the one that you're eating today. And that's it. And so you need to go out and hunt and you need to go out and talk and you need to build a really good value proposition and you need to network the heck out of yourself. And that's what kind of led to me creating these four principles of networking that I have and I talk to people about all the time.
I want to hear them. You were dangling a carrot for me, and I was like,
I was. I just
I wanna know."
teased you. I just teased you with those. Look, here they are. They're really simple. And it's funny because this came from other people that I chatted with. And I sort of kind of crafted these in my own way. And they're this. Principle one, work your network, don't use your network. And what I mean by that is that pick up the phone and talk to people, but don't pick up the phone and talk to people to ask for work. Don't say what your next need is. Find out what they're doing. Find out what the marketplace is doing. Find out a value proposition. Build a quality conversation with people that then will allow you over time to have them come back and go, oh, I need to go back and talk to Clayton because he's doing X, Y, and Z. But don't go out seeking things. You often have people call when they need their next job. Go out and work your network and build value conversations in your network. Don't use your network. The second principle is real simple, and a lot of people miss this. And a lot of people think I'm nuts because I literally will take any meeting, any phone call. I don't care how many lead generation guys or gals call me. I'll pick up the phone and talk to them because I never, ever know what I'm going to learn, Tiffany. I'm always going to learn something new and different. At a later age of my life, I went and started a consultancy. I never knew how to do payroll. I never knew how to build a website. I never knew how to build a 401k plan. I never knew how to really, I wasn't the lead generation guy in any part of my career. Other people brought those things to us. I've learned how to do all of those things by networking and talking to people and picking up the phone, because you never ever know what you're going to learn, because you'll learn something new that you can use and then you can help other people use. The third principle is another one people forget. Be patient. It's very simple. And people go, what do you mean by that? Be patient. And I'm like, you pick up the phone and you talk to somebody, or you send them an email, or you send them a text. Don't expect that they're going to respond in seconds, in minutes, in days, in weeks. They might respond a month later. Be patient about your conversations that you have, but ensure that you're building a good value proposition that'll drive those conversations sooner. And then the last principle is similar to what I would say is where our relationship has gone. And that is find the good people and have consistent conversations with them. And those are the four principles. And then there's other pieces wrapped around that, which is consistency compounds. And it's the idea of people would say, okay, great. What do you mean? How do I do that, Clayton? And I say, it's simple. Really is. It's simple. You have a network. Yes?
Yeah,
Yeah. How many people are in your network?
like 2,000 people.
Okay. 2000. That's a lot, right? I
Yeah.
can't go have a conversation with 2000 people.
No, you cannot.
Break it into pieces.
Yep.
Go talk
Couple
to the
hundred
people you have.
chunks.
Go to, go talk to people you haven't talked to in a month. Go talk to people you haven't talked to in 3 months. Go talk to people you haven't talked to in 6 months. Go talk to people you haven't talked to in a year. And as I like to say to people, consistency compounds. Schedule time with 5 people. 5 people turns into 25 people. 25 people turns into 100 people. And then all of a sudden, that compounds into more individuals. And literally, as I said to you earlier, you were asking me about how do I get to Arcart. There's a gentleman out of Chicago. His name's Michael Himmelfarb. I'll tout Michael. I've suggested Michael on varying other referral networks that you and I are on together. But Michael and I met through somebody else. You should meet Clayton Baum. Clayton, you should meet Michael Himmelfarb. Michael and I met, and Michael knew the CEO, founder of Arcart, and that founder CEO said, I'm looking for XYZ. He goes, I know the guy. And that's what introduced me to Arcart, networking. I wasn't looking to do anything with Michael, potentially, how do we do things? But it was just picking up. I mean, he's a good guy. I talk to him about every 90-ish days. And I learned what he's doing, how maybe I can help him. He wants to hear what I'm doing, how he can help me. And it's all through the idea of compounding consistency with good quality people and building valuable conversations that drive networking, that then ultimately open doors and drive opportunity for you.
Incredible. This is awesome. The stuff that you have and the nuggets that you have, I feel like everybody at this point is like, "Oh, man, I think I wanna get to know Clayton." Like, how do you want people to come find you so they can have this open conversation of just like, "Yeah, I'll meet anybody once," right?
My favorite means, frankly, is just ping me on LinkedIn. Look, LinkedIn is a great source, and the beauty of it is that I'm very open. If you go to my LinkedIn profile, my email is there and my phone. It's not a fake phone number. It's not a fake email. It's my real email and my real mobile phone number. And if you're savvy enough, go ahead and send me a text or saying, I'm a text guy because I'm here in the U.S. In other parts of the world, it's WhatsApp. But, certainly there's a variety of ways to ping me directly through my LinkedIn profile. And go
Perfect.
follow me. We post all kinds of interesting things and comments and posts out on LinkedIn all the time.
That's great. That's great. This has been so awesome to hear your story and your journey and why your steadfastness and persistency and the people that have just poured into you have made you kind of get to this person that you are right now. And then you're so open to be able to meet more people. So everybody, this is your advice right now. Go to LinkedIn. If you can't find Clayton, come find me. I'll get you with Clayton, right? Like super easy. And then let's do this. What's your you have such good nuggets, your 4 networking tips. What's the last little one that you want to leave with everybody before we close?
I would say this: communicate to people, talk to people, be open to talking to people, and find a good couple of unique questions that you ask that drive a value proposition. Just like you did here, Tiffany, what are you up to lately? What drove you to that? What are you seeing in the market? Simple things that are just conversational in nature that then open the conversation and continue that conversation with those individuals.
You said it. It came out amazing. I love it so much. I'm so grateful for your time that you and I.
Grateful for you, Tiffany. It's been a pleasure to meet you over time.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I just want everybody that I meet when they have a cool thing or a trajectory or this like spark about them, I want them to be heard and I want people to get to know them. And I'm like, why not just put them on a show? So that's us. Everybody who's hanging out so far, thank you for staying. Thank you for hanging out in the show. Clayton, thank you again for your time. And then that's it. Everybody see us on the next time around and go friend Clayton on LinkedIn and I will see you guys on the next episode. Bye bye for
And
now.
we'll chat soon, Tiffany, because you're a
Yeah.
good person and I'm going to stay in touch.
Oh, thank you so much. All right.
Bye.